during COVID, virtual tastings became a huge part of what wineries were doing. For us, we had always toyed with the idea of how do we bring our tasting room to our customer? You take your customers, their neighbors, through a flight that they buy beforehand. And one of our associates walks them through the flight in their family room, in their living room, in their kitchen.
Oh, so this is individualized. It's not like a big, massive tasting where everybody signs up. It's for a particular couple or family.
And we will pair them with an associate and schedule it when it works for them.
Do you have a thirst to learn about wine? Do you love stories about wonderfully obsessive people, hauntingly beautiful places, and amusingly awkward social situations? Well, that's the blend here on the Unreserved Wine Talk podcast. I'm your host, Natalie McLean, and each week I share with you unfiltered conversations with celebrities in the wine world, as well as confessions from my own tipsy journey as I write my third book on this subject. I'm so glad you're here. Now pass me that bottle, please, and let's get started. Welcome to episode 235. How can wineries use technology to better connect with customers online? What can you expect from the tasting rooms of the future? And what matters most when you taste wine? In today's episode, you'll hear those stories and tips to answer those questions in part 2 of my chat with Jessica Kogan, a digital brand marketing executive who has successfully launched brands such as Gucci, Prada, Charles Schwab, Cameron Hughes, and now Vintage Wine Estates. You don't need to have listened to part 1 from last week first, but I hope you'll go back if you missed it after you finish this one. Now, a quick update on my memoir, Wine Witch on Fire, Rising from the Ashes of Divorce, Defamation, and Drinking Too Much. So 2 Google alerts popped up in my inbox this week. The good kind, not the kind that were in the book. So the first was from the Toronto Star, Canada's largest city newspaper. Wine Witch on Fire made it onto their bestseller list this week, and I'm thrilled. The next alert was from the Globe and Mail, Canada's largest and most respected national newspaper. And yep, that little wine witch marched her way onto that list too, making it a national bestseller. Yay! She hit spot number 9, which is great. And yes, I'm talking about the book now as though she's a person. But here's the thing. A bestseller list is not the main thing. It is a reflection of the main thing, which is that there are people who need this story now. I took my grief and loneliness, and I wrote the book I needed when I felt so alone. As Carrie Fisher said, take your broken heart and make art. I believe if you're lucky enough to be born with even a modicum of talent and privileged enough to have the resources to nurture it, then you have a moral responsibility to write, because some people can't write. Either they're not wordsmiths or they don't believe they are, or they won't write. They're either fearful of telling their stories or they think their stories don't matter. But everyone's story matters. And when you can tell a story that captures a reader's feelings in words, when they say, I've been there, I felt that, that's my story too. And that is when the healing can start. If you've read the book, I'd love to hear from you at nataliemclean.com. If you haven't got your copy yet and would like to support it and this podcast, please order it from any online book retailer, no matter where you live. Every little bit helps spread this message. I'll put a link in the show notes to all the retailers worldwide at nataliemclean.com/235. Here's a review from Donna Whitaker, who lives in Concord, Ohio. I thought this book would be like her previous ones, but it was totally different. I was delighted with what it was, and I applaud the bravery it took to do it. 5 stars. Thank you, Donna. Okay, on with the show. And what's really interesting is your model. Like, I didn't quite understand it at first, But you're doing this spot purchasing, so it could be from
Yes,
anywhere in the
anywhere.
world, right? Different grapes, anywhere, not just in California. And the wines will change every year. Because I think you were talking about it on another podcast where, people said they love the wine, but then they could not get the
Correct.
same bottle next year. And I know that's part of the beauty, but also some people want the same thing. But that's really innovative. It's always different. So it's the same label, Cameron Hughes, but it could be a Viognier, and even next year's Viognier may come from a different part of the world.
And we say that. I mean,
Yeah,
every single
different.
lot number is unique. And we actually did a Cryomalis many years ago, which is in Canada, the frozen apple wine. It was so super cool. It was really, really fun. But I mean, what we do is we say we access, for example, 4 Cabernets. We get 4 cabs in the spot market purchasing. And some cabs are complete and ready to go into the bottle. And we'll have 500 cases, we'll have 2,000 cases. We don't know. And then there's some cabs that just need a little bit of, maybe they're missing like a mid palate. And we'll do some blending into that cab, not extending the blend, but just kind of rebalancing it towards a palette that we feel is reflective of our customers, who we know very well because they're all online and we talk to them all the time. And we release 50 to 60 wines a year. It's a journey. It's just a total wine journey. Some you're going to like, some you're not. You're not forced to buy any of them. You can buy whatever you want, whenever you want. It's 24/7.
A new wine every week. That's phenomenal. Wow. That's a lot of different labels.
Each label, it looks like this. It's the lot. It's a lot number. Not getting that out really well. This is our Black Series.
Okay.
This is our Merlot. Yep. Oh, gorgeous Merlot. We release Merlot and Cab during the fall. And then also sometimes in the spring, we will release some Black Label wines that we feel are the pinnacle of what we do. Essentially what that means is that we bought this wine from a winery and a winemaker that is out of this world. And we only have 500 cases, and they sell it for $150. We sell it for $30.
All right. Wow. That is innovative in itself. That's not even part of the digital landscape. And what was the most satisfying part of launching Cameron Hughes online? What did you like best about that?
I love talking to customers. Spent a lot of time when Cameron Hughes Wine was sold to Costco, standing in Costco talking to customers. And I love to talk to customers through their fear and anxiety, and to normalize the moment and let them feel in control and let them understand that all that matters in this world is how they taste the wine, not how other people taste the wine. What tastes good to them. That is what matters. And you don't have to be a cork dork. You don't have to follow the business. You don't have to know the terroir and the appellations and the blah, 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 blah. You just need to know what you like. What is a good taste to you? And realistically, to get to that place with wine, you're just going to have to, kiss a few frogs. Just the way it is.
Yes, absolutely. Can you remember any more interesting comments customers have said to you, whether it's about Cameron Hughes or another wine?
They will say, there's always a lot of criticism around the wine industry. I just didn't understand wine. I didn't get it until you started showing us. I just want red wine. Just give me red wine. Or I'll hear a lot of, the good stuff, the fun stuff, the stuff that warms my heart is the intergenerational stuff where parents buy wine for their kid's wedding or for a big family celebration, and how the particular lot number is something that they are holding on to for the rest of their lives, because it just brought for them this level of joy that they didn't think that they could have with another wine. So the same said for any of the brands within Vintage Wine Estates portfolio, within Duckhorn's portfolio, with anybody's portfolio. When a customer has an incredible experience with a wine that has elevated the social aspect of their moment, improving family relations being one, it just makes you feel so good to be part of the industry.
Yes, that's true. I used to get racked with guilt that I didn't end up being a missionary or saving lives
but
or
you
whatever.
are.
But, you know.
You are.
Well,
I mean,
okay.
I have heard from customers who talk about like the wars that they have in Thanksgiving and how difficult it is and how, having some of our wines or having wine to help like talk to their family members about so that they don't talk about the difficult topics has literally changed the dynamic of everything.
Absolutely. It is the drink of conversation. It slows you down and it can take some of the nettles out of the conversation. But the way I justify it now, Jess, is that everybody works really hard at our jobs or whatever. And I'm talking about normal people outside the industry, that I think those moments of pleasure have become more and more important. And we really do want a very special, elevated, sensory pleasure. I mean, otherwise, why are we working so hard if it's not for those moments with friends and family and something sensual? I mean, what's the point?
I could not agree with you more. And I think we have to help this generation back to sensuality, back to connection, back to
slowing down,
removing the fear and anxiety of being in a room with people and just slowing down.
That's true. That's true.
All right, well, let's go start a company. Let's do this.
Yes, absolutely. So Vintage Wine Estates acquired Cameron Hughes Wines in 2017, 18. And at first you didn't want to stay with the company. What happened? How did you get convinced to stay on with the new company?
So I think a lot of your listeners will identify, for those who have started companies, it's exhausting and startups are hard, and especially starting one with a partner that you have a family with. I just was ready for something else. I really wanted to move into something else. Wine wasn't where I intended to end up. It just felt like it was just part of my journey and my path, and I was ready to move into something new. And at the time, the president of the company, who is the current president, Terry Wheatley, who is just an industry icon in our industry, said to me, "Listen, I know you want to leave and I support you, but can you just give me like a month?" And I said, "Of course, I'll give you a month, no problem." And after the month was over, she said, "Jess, how are you doing? Like, can we just talk about that for a moment? Jess, how are you doing?" Asking me that after I had been running my own business with a lot of men. I was the only woman in the business as it was growing. And I just was so taken aback that she asked me that. And she then said, "You like it, don't you? You like working with me, don't you?" And I said, "I really do." And she said, "So will you take over all of direct to consumer for us?" And I was like, "Okay, like, let's talk about it." And she's a very inspiring person who shares very similar values that I do, which is valuing the people that work with you, providing professional growth and paths for people who work with you, and working really hard. I mean, Terry was just named in the 50 over 50 Forbes list, and she's been named an industry innovator, like the whole thing. But I think the one thing that really changed my life with her, for me, the reason I'm with her to this day, this is very personal, but I will share it. I had been running this business with my, who is now ex-husband, who's also a dear friend, Cameron. And in that time that we were running the business together, whether intentionally or unintentionally, he did his best to make me feel not valued. And I don't believe that he doesn't value me. We have wonderful girls together and we're great co-parents, but I think it's just the time he was raised in. And I was giving a presentation and Terry was at the presentation and Cam kept speaking over me, which he had always done. And she stopped the presentation. There were 100 people there. She stopped the presentation and she said, "Jess, Cam, can you please come with me? And I'd like to talk to you very quickly." Okay. We walked out of the office and she took us into another office and she closed the door. She looked at Cam and she said, "If you ever speak over her again, you will be immediately fired and I will tell your
Wow.
daughters for the rest of their lives.
Oh my goodness. Oh, wow.
Now, I know it's like, seems like so simple, but it's like to be heard, to be seen, to be heard and seen. And that is how she operates. She truly operates from that perspective of whoever is bringing the ideas to the room. Nobody talks over each other. We operate with collaboration and respect, and nobody is above anybody. Like, we're all equals in a flat organization. And I know that sounds like some type of utopia. It's not like that at all. But just the fact that in that moment, what I so desperately needed was somebody to see me outside of, like, nobody was standing up for me because I was the highest level person in the room. And Cam just kept doing it. It was a revelation.
Wow. That's
Women
remarkable.
suffer from this. And I didn't know how to get him to stop.
That's a great story. Jimmy Fallon the other night said, behind every great woman is a man saying what she said and taking credit for it.
Oh my God. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kara McNeil, the author of The Wine Bible, talks a lot about this, that sexism in the workplace today is not usually as overt as it was, say, whatever, in the 70s, 80s, 90s. It's the talking past, talking over, dismissing, not really subtle. And you can get lost in that conversation. Even Barack Obama had to be reminded of this by one of his staffers. It's like, listen when the women speak. And they're not even cognizant that they're doing it, some of them.
I mean, it's those microaggressions, and they're just like, wait, what? Like, I'm so much better than my dad. I'm so much better. It's like,
Yeah.
So that was really it. And it's really a privilege to work with a woman who's as you well know, there are very few women at the highest levels in our industry. She started at Gallo as a secretary, and there was a lot of overt sexism and many wonderful stories. And she has progressed on the wholesale side of the business to the highest level, which is just an accomplishment in itself. As we well know, the majority, 95% of those that work in wholesale are men.
Yeah. Wow. Remarkable woman. I would love to interview her as well someday. So you grew Vintage Wine Estate's direct-to-consumer division from 30 million a year to 100 million in less than 3 years.
Yes.
How did you do it? That's amazing.
Well, I can't give myself all the credit. I mean, there was this thing called COVID that definitely was an unexpected rocket ship that helped us. We were ready. We were prepared. We had our infrastructure and systems set up, and we were just able to press on the gas. The other part of it is there have been acquisitions made during the time that I have been at Vintage Wine Estates, which contribute some revenue to direct to consumer. But in general, the real growth came throughout the 2 years of COVID, where we were able to reach so many new customers. And as we are out of COVID now, maintain those relationships and bring those customers to our physical properties and expand beyond just possibly one winery. So yeah, I mean, it was a combination of being prepared from a software standpoint, having implemented in our tasting rooms technologies that connect our associates to the customers, our guests who visit. All of that had been done prior to.
So you were ready. And a lot
without
of wineries,
without
most,
knowing anything was going to happen.
Yeah. Well, that's prescient. So how do you connect your tasting room employees with customers? What technology are you using there?
So we use this software that is called Podium. And initially, this software was built for furniture companies. So you go to a store and you would go sit on the furniture and you would have an experience, and that experience would go nowhere because furniture stores weren't really looking for reviews. They weren't really looking for commentary online. What they were looking for is for people to come visit their stores and to find their stores. And so Podium built this application that connects directly into Google's algorithm through store reviews. So the more reviews that you do from a specific store, the higher the store comes up in search. So we implemented this technology into our tasting rooms. And every associate that works with our guests after the experience is complete will ask the guest if they would like to write a review. And typically guests say, yes, we'd love to write a review. In order to write a review, the associate has to text the link for the customer to write the review. So that information goes into a main dashboard where we can see our customers' information that is kept, bolted in an archive. But what happens is the link that the customer gets is tied to a Google login. So if they have Gmail, they can just immediately write a review and it posts immediately. If they have a login to TripAdvisor, they will immediately be able to write a review in TripAdvisor. And the same thing for Facebook, and the same thing, well, not directly with Yelp, but Google. So Google reviews, Facebook, and TripAdvisor, like without having to log in.
Oh, that is innovative. Wow. And then it helps in your SEO.
So once you build up those reviews, once you build that up, once you get those reviews in the ecosystem of the web, of the internet, what happens is that information is picked up on. And so Natalie is driving through Napa and she's looking for a winery to go do a taste at. And you do a search in your browser, and what is likely to come up in your organic search is going to be one of our wineries because we have so many reviews on so many different sites.
That's brilliant. I love that concept. Do many wineries use this, to your knowledge, like outside your organization?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I believe that there are software systems that have similar setups for specific to the wine industry, but I tend to look at technology outside of the industry because the industry, it's not an industry built in technical sophistication. It's built in manufacturing production sophistication.
Sure. Oh, that makes so much sense. I mean, just wow.
Yeah.
And so in terms of going back to that tasting room, how else do you incorporate digital into your tasting room experience? Are there any other ways in addition to getting the reviews?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. We still do virtual tastings. We love virtual tastings. During COVID, of course, virtual tastings became a huge part of what wineries were doing. For us, we have always desired to bring the tasting room to our customers. I mean, we love customers coming to our physical properties, absolutely, all day long. We had always toyed with the idea of how do we bring our tasting room to our customer? And this is just the most beautiful way to do it. You take your customers, their neighbors, through a flight that they buy beforehand. And one of our associates walks them through the flight in their family room, in their living room, in their kitchen.
Oh, so this is individualized. It's not like a big, massive tasting where everybody signs up. It's for a particular couple or family.
They can sign up online and we will pair them with an associate and we will schedule it when it works for them. And I think it is one of the best ways to bring the tasting room to the customer in the spirit of the internet and customer first and omnichannel. I believe our job is to make ourselves available and accessible and easy to get to all customers. I mean, we all want to come to Sonoma Napa. We all want to visit it, but sometimes we just can't. But why can't we have the taste? Why can't we have the feeling? Why can't we have that moment of hospitality? We can provide it.
That makes so much sense. And if you were to design your tasting room of the future, I guess the physical one, I guess it'd be a hybrid, but if technology wasn't a limitation, how would you envision the tasting room of the future?
So I believe that tasting rooms do not need to be big. Like, I don't believe that they need to be these huge palatial buildings. I would really design a tasting room that feels more like a bar. And that has these intimate spaces where individuals can connect and where associates can sit down with the group and take them through the tastings. I mean, there could be, obviously from a technology standpoint, there are people who are interested in self-service. I would have a self-service component where they can just print out the flight and the flight gets delivered to them. And if they want help, there will be somebody to help them. But I just like the idea of smaller spaces, more intimate and more engaged.
Oh, that's great. I love that. And that doesn't need a whole leap forward in technology to implement. I mean,
it really doesn't.
Yeah.
Because the physical matters, like in tasting wine, like that will never change. But it's just the need state of a customer. You know, some customers, it's like kind of like CarMax. Some people just want to buy a car and not talk to a salesperson. It's just the way it is. Why wouldn't we offer that? Why wouldn't we offer that?
Yeah, makes sense to meet them where they are, not force them into our model of tasting room or how it should go.
Yeah.
Huh. Wow. So, my goodness, the time's flying. So we need to taste some wine.
Yes.
I would love to hear about the wines that you've brought and have you taste them and get your perceptions of them. And
okay,
I will do the same.
I brought 2 bottles.
Okay.
The first one is cherry pie.
Ah.
And I know that the label is like a character and it kind of feels like not so serious, but this wine is outstanding. And this wine came through the acquisition of Jason Woodbridge's business, Layer Cake, and cherry pie was his special project. And this particular Pinot Noir comes from Rogers Creek in the Sonoma Coast. The wine, I love Pinot Noir from the coast because it has that Burgundian kind of like, now we're going to cork dork it a little bit. It has that kind of like lightness that I love, but also that real intense fruit that you can't get away from with California. And it just does both so well. So on the Sonoma Coast, you're getting like, you know, the wonderful, you know, ocean air blowing on the, you know, vineyards all day long and intense heat. And so you're getting both of these moments. And I just feel like the Pinot Noir is outstanding. Just my style. I just don't like a big, heavy Pinot Noir, but I don't like a really light Pinot Noir.
Right. Wow. Our tastes are aligned as well. Now, cherry pie, have you had to overcome the image that that might be a sweet wine because of the name?
I mean, it definitely. But I will tell you that, you know, this particular wine, it's a little expensive. So it doesn't, the questions asked before purchased, we can be very specific and say, this isn't sweet. You know, this is a pretty serious Pinot Noir and it's going to knock your socks off. Like, I've yet to meet somebody who says this wine was not, everybody was like, where do you buy this wine? Where do you get this?
Wow.
It's just not.
Talking about the wine like that is more interesting than, to me at least, than saying smooth tannins and whatever. And so all the cork dork stuff. There you go.
A diam cork and like all of that.
What is a diam cork?
Yeah. A diam cork
what does that mean?
It means it's made with part cork, some recycled wood. And it's actually, like, as I understand it from winemakers, what they love about it is the failure rate is much lower than pure cork.
Okay.
And second, the transference of oxygen to the wine is very good. Oh, this is great. It says, congratulations, you've made the correct decision to open this. Commence having fun.
Aw, I like that. I like that a lot. So we'll hear from you in terms of what it tastes like.
This is the color.
Mm-hmm. Lovely. Nice big glass there.
Yeah. So it's a darker red than a usual Pinot. Well, California, compared to California Pinot's lighter. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's like strawberry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good tasting.
It just smelled like, even if you don't know what word to use or fruit to assign to it, like the nose, even if you're like, that nose, like, well, I don't understand. Like, you smell something.
Yeah, there's an emotional response of, yes, I like this, or I want to try it.
I had my kids smell it because I'm like, am I the only one smelling it? They're like, no, I smell jam,
there you go.
So they were on. So
early learners. And while you're tasting, I'll just show the camera. I've got a Gewürztraminer from British Columbia, Bailey Graham. And we'll put links in the show notes to all of the wines that we're tasting. So for those listening or watching can find the wines. All right. So how is it on the palate? Okay. More technical tasting notes.
It's divine. I mean, it's just a divine Pinot Noir.
I love that.
It really is. It's everything that I look for. It's just round and smooth. And just has a lot of just a lot of mouthfeel, and the finish is just like delicious. It really is. I hate to say it, but I can drink like a whole bottle on my own.
Yeah.
Which I rarely do, because there's never really a wine that gets me that excited.
Sure.
But this wine,
I know the feeling though.
The way they make it is just, and the Sonoma Coast. I mean, there's Fort Ross makes some beautiful Pinot Noirs on the Sonoma Coast. And it's just that growing area just is the perfect old world, new world meeting of styles. Because the new world it's just, you can't help it. The sun, the hang time, the grapes have more sugar. And yet, because of the weather, you get like better acidity. And that's really the hallmark of Old World. And so you get both of those together, and it's just, your listeners have to try it. It's fabulous.
Absolutely. And just to report back on the Bailey Graham, a Gewürztraminer from BC. It's very floral. It's lovely, but it's not over the top floral.
Okay.
But I would pair this with like a light seafood dish. But I'm also, just while you're getting yours open there, your second one, I've also got the Winemaker's Cut, a Muscat Canelli from BC. So I'll give this one a try too.
Wow.
Yeah, these just came in recently, so I thought I'd open them.
Muscat Canelli. So I am curious to know what that tastes like.
Oh yeah, it's very muscety in that, it's kind of, again, not to get too dorky, but kind of like walking down one of the first beautiful days in spring, and you're smelling whether it's cherry blossoms or apple blossoms or whatever. And it just feels like renewal and hope, and the sun is warm on your shoulders.
Yeah.
That's Muscat Canelli right here.
I love that. Renewal and hope. So does it have nice acidity in there?
It does. It's so spritzy and light.
Oh, I love that.
The alcohol would be very low on this.
I love spritzy and light, but does it have kind of a sweeter profile?
It does. It's not cloying at all. It's more like biting into a fresh peach it's not all the way ripe. So light sweetness, light, fresh sweetness, that it's not gone to like preserves or jamminess at all. It's just that fresh bite. Yeah.
Ooh, I like that.
Okay.
And so you mostly like white wines?
No, I'm just opening samples that arrived. So
oh, nice.
They arrived the other day, so I thought I need to open them and give them a try.
And do you mostly taste Canadian wines or
wines from all over the world?
From
lots
anywhere.
Of California.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I've recommended lots from your portfolio, like Conde and Clos Begas and whatever's available here and whatever agents are sending us in the media.
Yeah.
I'm very Catholic small C with regards to tasting.
Love it. So the wine that I'm tasting is Lot 894 Merlot from Columbia Valley from Cameron Hughes. And I know, I actually noticed in some of your notes, how could a movie just destroy a varietal? And it did. The movie shall rename nameless, Sideways. But I love Merlot. And because Merlot has fallen out of favor, you're getting the most amazing Merlots today. And this particular Merlot from Columbia Valley, I mix it up with Cabernet because it has the richness of a Cabernet, but it has like the velvetyness of Merlot. You know, that
Sure.
if you like really rich but balanced tannins, this is your wine.
Oh, sounds great. And of course, the reason Merlot fell out of favor, other than getting pushed out a little bit by the movie, is that it was a backlash because it was so popular. And there's a reason why it was so popular in the first place. You know, it is a smooth, rich, pleasurable wine.
Oh,
Yeah, there you go.
it's just like, if you like that feeling in your mouth of like a little residual leftover, is the way I would describe it. No, that's not like an elegant way of saying it, but it's like,
Oh, sure.
just having like a little bit left of the wine in your mouth, even after you sip it. To me, that's Merlot. And like high-end Merlot, which this is, it's like, it just feels like a little carpet, like a soft carpet.
Yeah, velvety, soft carpet that keeps coming back and back. And of course, Cork Dork would say long finish.
Oh,
but
yes.
I like your way of describing it, that
yes.
it's still there. It's still with
there.
you. It's, yeah.
I
Reverberating.
can't, like, writing those wine notes, I feel so much for consumers who have to read it, because it's like they're trying to describe something that is, give it more of a technical feel, when I'm just like, how did it taste? What did it do in your mouth? You know, like what happened? But I also understand it's just like, you kind of have to have some language that is consistent. So
it is hard to trap a subjective experience into words, let alone numbers when it comes to the scoring, but that's a whole other rabbit hole.
So true.
So this Merlot, you've got, if you were to describe it in terms of fruit, would it be sort of dark fruit, plums?
It's definitely dark. It's definitely rich. As I mentioned, it has a Cabernet imprint on it.
Okay.
So thick, rich, but because it's from Columbia Valley, you're getting a lot of those really cool nights. So it's got like some really lovely acidity that just gives the tannins this beautiful roundness in your mouth. It really is a big sip of wine, but after you finish, it just lays down, like I call it, like the magic carpet ride. It's like a magic carpet ride, yeah.
Absolutely. We all want to go on a magic carpet ride with our wine. Why wouldn't we?
And this is the wine. Like cherry pie is just delicious. This Merlot it's a meditation.
Make you think about what you're drinking and where you are. And
Yeah. Ooh, sorry about that.
Oh, wow. I cannot believe the time. Those are wonderful wines. We will get them linked in the show notes, Jess. Probably I should let you have the rest of your day, perhaps what's left of it. But I'm just wondering if there's anyone you could share a bottle with, wine, living or dead, outside the wine industry, who would that be? Why and what bottle might you open?
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Okay.
Because I just think she is an amazing human being. And it would likely be a bottle of champagne, though I know we don't have much to celebrate at the moment. But I just think what she did for women was just life-changing. And it was the brilliance of her mind and her work ethic that just inspired by her. And I wish I could have met her while she was alive, but she's somebody I would love to talk to and learn from.
Absolutely. So inspiring. Wow. Well, Jess, is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to mention before we wrap up? And I will ask you where we can find your wines online, of course.
Yeah.
But anything else?
No, I mean, this has been so much fun, Natalie. I feel like we could talk for way too long.
Oh, yeah. This just went like that, honestly. Anyway, yes.
And I feel like we share a lot of like both interests and concerns about the industry, and just like a very deep love for what it is that we do. And I just think your listeners, it is such a privilege to be in the wine industry, to be giving joy, providing joy. I always say to my team when they're having a bad day, I'm like, we're not solving world peace, but we're trying to bring joy to the dining room table.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. It keeps it in perspective. And it's small yet important.
Yeah.
And I think that's all we can hope to do.
Yeah.
Really, any of us. Yeah.
Agreed.
Make a small but important difference. Wow. Okay. So where can we find you online? Perhaps both you and your wines.
Sure. So Cameron Hughes Wine, you can find at chwine.com. And the wine we had today was Lot 894 Merlot from Columbia Valley. For cherry pie, you go to cherrypiewines.com. And the 2019 Rogers Creek Pinot Noir. And to learn more about Vintage Wine Estates, which is the parent company that owns both Cherry Pie and Cameron Hughes Wine and Cundy and Clopegas and Biarcon, go to vintagewineestates.com and click on any of the brands, which will take you to one of our many estate websites. And yeah, I mean, there's so much to explore, so much to discover, and wine is the endless journey. And I'm so grateful, Natalie, that we have people like you sharing the message out there about how amazing that journey and the industry is.
Well, thank you. It's been my pleasure. And I don't know if you are on social media or if you want to share any of those details.
Yes. So I personally don't do a lot of social media, but for CH Wine, it's at CH Wine on Instagram. And the same for Vintage Wine Estates. It's at Vintage Wine Estates on Instagram. And then on LinkedIn, we are CH Wines on LinkedIn. I am personally Jessica Kogan on LinkedIn. And you can absolutely get in touch with me if you have any questions. I do check my LinkedIn email box often-ish. And as I mentioned, Vintage is also on LinkedIn. And then we have Twitter handles, but I would say mostly Instagram and Facebook. The handles are the exact same as where you can find us.
Sure. And we'll put those links in the show notes as well.
Great.
Well, Jessica, thank you so much. I appreciate this. Again, it was very easy to get off track with you, which is a compliment to you. Yeah, it's really interesting. I just loved your stories and insights. So we should continue this conversation, whether it's on another podcast or maybe even in person sometime. What a concept.
That would be amazing.
All right. So I'll say cheers and bye for now, Jess, but look forward to continuing this in the future.
Cheers to you. Thank you.
All right. Bye. Well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed my chat with Jessica. Here are my takeaways. Jessica is so visionary in how she sees wineries using technology to better connect with customers online rather than making the experience less personal. I also enjoyed her insights into how tasting rooms of the future will change to better tailor the in-person experience for visitors. And she's absolutely right that what matters most when you taste wine is whether or not it suits your taste. In the show notes, you'll find the full transcript of my conversation with Jessica, links to her website, the video versions of these conversations on Facebook and YouTube Live, and where you can order my memoir online no matter where you live. That's all in the show notes at nataliemclain.com/235. Email me if you have a sip, tip, question, or would like to be part of the book's launch team at natalie@nataliemclain.com. If you missed episode 80, go back and take a listen. I chat about the allure of wines from Provence, especially rosé, it is rosé season now, with writer Jill Barth. I'll share a short clip with you now to whet your appetite.
There is a preference for a pale rosé. I think that that's the consumer's idea, that it embodies freshness and lightness. There also seems to be a misconception that it's going to be sweeter if it's darker, and that's not true at all. I've heard people I'm sharing wine with, and they'll see a dark rosé and they'll think, oh, I don't like sweet wines, but it's to do with the varieties of the grape and how long that juice has any amount of skin contact.
That makes total sense.
People do seem to like the light ones these days for, I think, reasons of aesthetics, not necessarily that it influences the flavor as much as you might think.
Sure. And is there anything to the fact that if it's a darker rosé, it's going to be more full body? Did it get more skin contact, therefore more flavor? Or is that too a generalization that doesn't always play out?
It probably doesn't always play out, but it would hold true that darker skinned grapes that experience more skin contact during the winemaking are going to impart more of that color.
If you like this episode, please email or tell one friend about it this week, especially someone you know who'd be interested in the wines, tips, and stories we shared. You won't want to miss next week when I talk with Dr. Mark Gudgel about his new book, The Rise of Napa Valley Wineries, How the Judgment of Paris Put California Wine on the Map. He focuses on the wine industry and the issues that surround it. Thank you for taking the time to join me here. I hope something great is in your glass this week. Perhaps a spring fresh rosé. You don't want to miss one juicy episode of this podcast, especially the secret, full-bodied bonus episodes that I don't announce on social media. So, subscribe for free now at nataliemclean.com/subscribe. Meet me here next week. Cheers.